If I had to start completely over today, no coding, no experience, no degree, nothing, this is exactly how I would learn Python. And I don't just mean Python the language, because in 2026, the language is not enough. The jobs that actually pay what you want need three things, and that's programming, data skills, and AI. That's really the combination to make the most amount of money with Python in 2026. Now, the way that most people try to learn this is a complete mess. They grab a Python playlist from one channel like mine, they get a Pandas course somewhere else, they do an AI tutorial from a random book or someplace on the internet, and none of it connects together. You open up 20 different tabs and you have 3 half-finished courses with no idea what you should do next. So today, I'm going to show you how I would learn all of these skills in the same place. Also, how to do them in the right order and exactly what you actually need to learn so that you can develop a plan and make sure that you're going in the right direction. So first, let's quickly talk about why you need to learn these 3 skills, because the order and this combination matters a lot. Now, Python is still the #1 language to learn, right? It's consistently top 3 in job demand, it's the default language of AI, and basically every data tool and every AI framework is using Python. Now, that part has not changed, but what has changed is what employers expect around it. Almost every technical role now expects some data literacy. They want you to be able to take a messy data set, clean it up, and actually pull answers out of it. And on top of that, AI has gone from kind of a nice to have skill to the fastest growing skill in the entire market. AI engineer roles in the US are averaging somewhere from $175,000 to $200,000 per year, and even regular developer jobs are increasingly expect that you know how to work with AI APIs and integrations. Now, with that in mind, the Python that you learn in these categories feeds into the next. So what you learn in fundamentals feeds into data, and the way you learn in data feeds into the AI world. So it's one path, not 3 separate ones, but it's kind of divided into 3 different disciplines. Again, we have the fundamentals, kind of Python itself, we have data, and then we have the AI skills. And what I'm going to show you now is where you can learn it in one place. Now, I'm going to map out an exact plan for you here that shows you exactly what to learn and where you can learn it. But regardless if you go with this plan or not, it's so important that you do have a plan. So you need to think through what it is you're actually going to learn before you dive in and you start learning. Now, the reason is because you need to make sure that you're following a structured path. One of the most difficult things about learning is actually knowing what to learn. So if you can get that out of the way at the beginning, it's going to make it a lot easier for you to stick to the plan, follow through, and know what's coming next so you can make sure you're actually making progress. This was the biggest mistake that I made when I was first learning Python, is that I didn't have a plan. I jumped between a ton of different resources. Now, of course, I learned a lot, but I wasn't really sure where I was or if I was making progress. And every day I had to spend the time to figure out what to do, which is really exhausting and just makes it difficult to stick to the plan. Now, another component of this that is so important is to make sure that you're interactively learning. Studies have shown that if you're just passively consuming information, you only retain about 20 or 25% of it. Whereas when you go up to interactive learning, where you're doing exercises and projects along the way, you can retain anywhere from 75 to 90% of the info. So whatever resource you use, make sure that it has an interactive component. And if it doesn't, you need to find something outside of that to do the interaction with. Now, that's why for this video, I'm going to be recommending DataCamp. DataCamp actually has 3 tracks that map exactly to the 3 phases that I've talked about here: the fundamentals, the data, and then the AI. Now, even if you don't want to use DataCamp, that's fine. At least watch the video, because I'm going to show you all of the steps and exactly what to learn in what order. And full transparency, DataCamp has sponsored this video, and they've been a long-term partner of the channel. However, I personally use them myself. I've actually gone through some of these tracks, and I've been recommending them for years now, so I'm very confident in what I show you here. If you do like what you see, feel free to take advantage of that. They have a 25% discount code, which I'll link in the description, and a lot of the stuff you can actually check out completely for free. Okay, so let's go through. I want to show you the 3 phases. We're going to start with the programming fundamentals, then we're going to get into the data, then we're going to look at the AI. Again, I want to give you a step-by-step plan. So as I mentioned, the first phase is the Python fundamentals. It's so important in this phase that you become competent with Python, you understand the core concepts, the syntax, and you're comfortable writing with it without using AI. So what I'm going to show you here is the exact outline of the Python skills you would need to learn in the specific order. I'm going to show it to you in DataCamp's platform because they have a really good curriculum. Again, you don't have to use this. You don't have to purchase it if you don't want, but at least follow the plan that's here. It's just very visual and easy for me to show you. So the first course, or the first track that they have, is Python Programming Fundamentals. Just so you're aware, they have two more, one for Data Fundamentals and one for AI Engineer. And through this, they teach you the fundamentals of Python. It's 16 hours, and I'm just going to go over to my account here where I have it, and I'm going to show you some of the concepts that are in here. So for example, we start Introduction to Python for Developers. This is kind of a mini course. If we go into it, you can see that we're running a Python script, updating variables, working with data types, right? Control flow and loops. So these are the concepts you want to learn. Look, we're looking at while loops, we're looking at appending values, we're looking at lists, we're looking at basic data types, right? That's where we get started, and a lot of this has exercises. Next, we move to Intermediate Python. If we have a look at Intermediate Python, we're looking at functions, right? We're looking at sorting. We're looking at different modules and importing modules, right? And packages in Python. We're looking at more advanced functions, different types of parameters, arguments, right? Doc strings, things like that. And then we're even looking at Lambda functions and error handling, so try catch or try except in Python. Going back, let's have a look at the next course. Again, I just want to show you guys all of the concepts. We have a look at Python Toolbox. If we're here, we're looking at things like iterators and the built-in Python libraries that are super useful. We're looking at list comprehensions and generators, a bit more advanced, right? And then keep going. And we have a bunch of exercises here that uses all of them together and even introduces you to pandas. And then lastly, we have data types in Python, where we look at advanced data types, manipulating them, various numeric data types, some of the weird things in Python like truthy and falsy values, and then counters and all kinds of other things like data classes and more complex topics with object-oriented programming. So that's kind of the high-level overview of the concepts that you would need to learn. Now, I just want to show you how it's outlined in here because, for example, you'll see that a lot of these are actually exercises. So you'll see that we have a relatively short video. Most of them are like 3 to 5 minutes long. And then after the video, you actually go into an interactive exercise where you write code directly in the browser. You can submit the answer, actually see it right here, and then get any hints or assistance on the left-hand side. This is the interactive part that I'm talking about. And whether you use this or not, you need to have these types of exercises to verify that you actually know what you're doing. So once you've mastered the Python fundamentals, it's time to move on to working with data in Python. Now, this is critical because it also makes everything feel a lot more practical because you actually start doing things that make sense that you would do on a job when you're using Python. I find a lot of times when you're just learning Python fundamentals, it can feel a little bit more abstract because you're doing kind of some strange exercises. But when you get to the data side, it starts to feel like this becomes a lot more useful. Now, the track I'm going to show you here from DataCamp is the Python Data Fundamentals. Same thing like I mentioned, literally just look at this, you understand the exact plan, and then if you want to go through, obviously everything's in one place, so it's very convenient. So what I'm going to do here is open it up inside of the platform. You can see it's 28 hours, and it covers pretty much everything you need to be fluent or comfortable, at least, working with data in Python, kind of basic data science skills. So if we have a look here at the track, you can see there's 7 different courses with 2 full capstone projects inside. It covers Introduction to Python, Intermediate Python, but notably if you look in these courses, well, it does have a little bit of overlap with the other track. It covers some other concepts like NumPy, for example, that you haven't yet seen. Then Intermediate Python, same thing, has some case studies, logic controls, dictionaries, pandas, etc. And then you start moving into the data-specific skills. So data manipulation using pandas and data frames, joining data with pandas, which is more complicated, combining multiple data sources. Things like data visualization using Seaborn, right? So you can actually see graphs and charts. Then things like statistics and probability, and then moving on to exploratory data analysis. And you can see there's projects along the way that are much more complex that you can complete that kind of complement the exercises. So for example, if we go to maybe data visualization here, I'll just show you an example of what an exercise might look like. Let's go to maybe, I don't know, hue and scatter plots, and you'll see that it gives us an exercise to complete where we actually need to create a plot, and then we'll be able to view it directly in the browser. Let me actually just complete it. I'll show you what the result looks like. Okay, so I just filled in the answer here, and you can see that you can actually view the plot directly inside of here. So everything's interactive in the browser, and you don't need to leave, and then you can skip through, obviously, and go to the other lessons. Okay, so that's the data fundamentals phase. Again, at this point, you're focusing on being comfortable working with data in Python. We're looking at pandas, we're looking at matplotlib, we're looking at Seaborn, we're looking at exploratory data analysis, and actually taking all of these concepts that we've learned previously, like core fundamentals, and applying them to something a little bit more pragmatic. Now, if you did finish this track on DataCamp, there is also a certification available, so you can add this, add it to your LinkedIn, and show that you have these skills. Anyways, let's move to the next phase. So now we move to the AI phase. Now, in this phase, you want to focus on practical AI engineering and integrating AI applications. So we're not looking too much about theoretical machine learning or actually building an LLM or something. We're talking about how do we use what's already out there and integrate it into existing software. So if we look at the curriculum that they have here under the Associate AI Engineer for Developers track, you can see working with the OpenAI API. Again, we're not developing our own neural network, we're using what already exists. Prompt engineering, Hugging Face, LLM Ops, right? There's a bunch of other items that they have here. Understanding embeddings and vector databases, right? Building AI applications with Pinecone, and then even things like system design and software engineering principles that are going to apply when you start using these. So this specific track is 29 hours. Let me show it to you on the platform because this is one I've actually completed myself. Okay, so you can see the track here. Notice that I've completed it. So I've gone through everything. The only thing I haven't done is the certificate. So this actually has a certificate at the end that is a mix of theoretical questions as well as a 4-hour practical exam. So when you finish this, you can complete the certificate and then again, show it on your LinkedIn and actually get some benefit from it. Now, one thing I'll point out in this particular course is something like LLM Ops. This is something I don't see in a lot of curriculum that's super important when it comes to this type of concept. Being able to explain how to actually deploy applications, understanding rate limiting, throughput, and all the other things that happen when you actually take AI applications to production is just so important. Now, just to give you a sense of some of the exercises that are inside of here, I'm going to open one up. You can see, let's go to building conversations with the OpenAI API, and let's go to something like, I don't know, creating a conversation history, right? So what's interesting is that you can actually directly use the OpenAI API in the browser, which is super interesting. So they have like some key, I forget exactly how it works, but you'll notice that if I submit the answer, then we'll actually be able to get a response here and we can see what it is the model said. So I'm using it directly in the browser, right? I can get the response back and I can build everything without having to generate my own API key and all of that kind of stuff, which I don't know, I found was kind of a unique part of the platform. Okay, so now that we've gone over the 3 phases and hopefully you have an understanding of generally the concepts you need to learn, I want to give you 2 rules that you need to follow while you're actually executing this. Now, the first is the 80-20 rule. The platform is going to give you a bunch of reps, right? But after each phase, what you need to do is build something small on your own with no guardrails and no input, okay? So after phase 1, build a command line tool, right? After phase 2, analyze a data set that you actually care about or that you're spending your time on, right? Your workouts, your food, your finances, whatever, right? After phase 3, build a chatbot, right? Build your own AI application and actually deploy it. This is so important because in the real world, you're not going to be given super detailed instructions like you have in a course. You need to do some things on your own. Now, the second rule is don't wait until you feel 100% comfortable to move on to the next phase. Now, you're never going to feel ready. There's always going to be things that are lacking in your knowledge or things that you forget. Just finish the track, get through the plan, build the projects, whatever, and then move on. Momentum is always going to beat mastery, so don't wait until it feels 100% perfect. That said, you should have most of the fundamentals. You should feel comfortable, but just understand there's always going to be things that you don't memorize or that you're going to forget, and that's totally normal. Okay. So this is how I would learn Python for programming, data, and AI in 2026 in a single location. I really like this platform. I think the curriculum they have is very well laid out and covers pretty much everything that you need to know. And as you've seen, I've literally done one of the tracks myself. If you want to use this yourself and you want access to everything, again, there's a 25% off link in the description. However, if you don't want to pay for this, totally fine. You don't have to. You can literally just copy the exact plan that they have laid out, which is the benefit of courses like this. They've done the hard work of creating the curriculum, and then you can go and learn all of the concepts on your own. Of course, it's not going to be as streamlined. You're going to be going between different resources, but it's totally up to you. And at least you have a plan, which is the most important part when it comes to learning these things. Anyways, guys, that's all I have for you. If you enjoyed, leave a like, subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.